Those of you that are listening to this show for the first time, I call failures learning experiences. It's only a failure if you don't get back up or you don't get the lesson when you get your nose bloodied.
Team is more important than the deal because a great team can take a fledgling deal and breathe life into it. And a terrible team can take a great deal and shred it apart. Through my connections, millions of dollars were raised on both deals that I participated in. Money is not the only currency. Time's a currency. Our relationships are a currency. Knowledge is a currency, and you can get that for free. And so the first thing to do is to start to invest in yourself. If anyone had told me early on that this was a relationship business, that would have saved me a whole lot of stress.
Welcome to Multifamily Rockstars. So as you guys know, these are the episodes where we go deep on our guest deals and give you some practical and actionable items to get started, even if you haven't done a deal yet. So you can actually get started and do a freaking deal, right? I've got my co-host, Mark Nagy, with me as usual.
What's going on, Rod? I feel like I say this every time we get a unique story, but today's this deal, the ups and downs on this one to get a deal done. I don't think it's never had a story like this.
Well, we've got Ify Asoh on, and she's with Goshen Capital, and she is actually a doctor. She's an ICU pharmacist. She's a mom of 3 kids, and she's just a little ball of fire, and you guys are really in for a treat today. And she's already in 3 deals, which you're going to hear about, but welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Rod.
Of course.
Mark. This is an honor.
Oh, thank you. So, well, let's get into the first deal, shall we? Let's get right into it. So let's talk. Why don't you tell us about the first deal that you did and just kind of walk it through it. Where is it? What did you pay for it? How'd you find it? How'd you finance it? Just take us through it.
Of course. So for those who are listening, because I love to speak to the former version of myself, being in the right rooms is key. So I live in Massachusetts, and I knew I was not going to buy in Massachusetts. Shout out to all the people that are buying in Massachusetts. That was not going to be me. And so I knew I was going to be a remote investor. And so because I had children, I wasn't able to attend all the different, live events that happen in commercial real estate across the country. And so I resorted to Zooms. So through online Zooms and rooms, I did a lot of networking, even though I'm the world's greatest introvert, but I did a lot of networking. And I, met with this sponsor. She had been in this particular market, it's a market in Pennsylvania. It's called Shippensburg. It's in the Cumberland County, and they're about to do their first syndication. So it's a Class A, 120 unit, 480 beds because it's student housing. It was built, I believe, 2009. The previous owner acquired it. He uses a traditional fix and flip method, which is a little unusual, but that's his method. He injected $1.5 million of capital all through 2022. So he got it in 2021, all through 2022. He's renovating. He's putting in a keyless entry, Amazon, package hub. It's fully furnished, the works. So it's kind of like a 2022 build at this point. But he doesn't realize, or he doesn't remember, that this is student housing, and there's a very short window in which you have to start leasing for the next school year. And so he, starts running, occupancy starts going down. And so he gets in a second property management company just to help with leasing up. I think when we got into due diligence, he was about 66% occupied. The break point is about 60%. And so it was about 66% occupied. It was still cash flowing. And so we acquired it for about 13.3 million. Because it wasn't stable, we knew right away we weren't going to get agency debt on it. So we got a recourse loan for about 9.3, and then we had to raise about 5 million. Now, it's cash flows like crazy. But here was seminar number 1. Seminar number 1 was, it was located in a market that wasn't well known. See, I was raising on 2 deals at the same time. One was in Shippensburg and the other was in Fort Worth. And if you ask the average investor, where would you rather, regardless of the numbers, even though the numbers on this one were stronger, they always gravitated towards Fort Worth. And so the very first
let me interject for 1 second. Guys, We try to never raise for more than one deal at a time because
Yes,
for that
don't do it.
very reason, it's very difficult. People don't like having choices either. That adds another piece of this. So just as a caveat, I'd encourage you not to try to raise for two deals at the same time because sometimes they won't do either one because they have to make a decision. So sorry, please
Oh
continue.
no, of course. And I've actually told that to people. I said, don't do it. Ask me how I know. I borrowed that phrase from you. So I came into the team at the time I came into this particular project. The team had already been put together, most of them, and so this was going to be my first deal. I was coming in with very little experience in terms of raising capital. So if you're listening to this, raising capital is one of the most important things that you have to do in this business. It's a relationship business. So team was put together, and then shortly, this is what I was telling Rod before, shortly after we signed PSA, one of the key principals on the deal, he looked at the raw numbers, which were amazing. It was a smoking deal, like Rod would say, and he approached the finder of the deal and asked for her to kick off everybody on the team. He wanted to split the proceeds with her 50-50. And she said, no. She said, I've put this team together for a reason. And he said, if you don't do it, I will walk. And she said goodbye. And there I was, relatively brand new on this team. I had just joined the Warriors. I was at work and I got a call saying, ring, ring, we need a new KP. and so that was my foray into capital
Oh,
raising.
you stepped in as a, did you step in as a KP as well on
No,
the
no,
debt?
no, no.
Oh,
I no,
okay.
I
Okay.
didn't.
You
I
mean as
didn't.
a
But then
co-GP with
I
money. Right.
correct.
Gotcha.
I was
By
a
the way,
co-GP.
just to elaborate, guys, KP typically means key principal, which is someone signing on the debt. You came in as a GP, which is a general
Correct.
partner, co-GP. Got it. Okay. So,
Correct.
and it's trial by fire because you got to raise how much?
We had to raise about 5 million for this and 5 million for the other one.
Wow.
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 Yes, yes.
That would even give me pause. Okay. We
So
just
10 million
raised,
raise, no
yeah.
no KPs, but you
Yeah.
have a
Okay, well,
Well,
deal.
we had half a KP. We had the
Oh,
person who
half.
was, on the deal, yes, she was half a KP, and then we were looking for another one, and then we got an off-market deal in Fort Worth. So we had two that we were juggling at the same time. But going back to the Shippensburg deal, the business plan, because it was fully furnished. It was the previous owner had put in about $1.5 million into it. He upgraded it all throughout 2022. And so the business plan really was to stabilize it, which is to increase the occupancy. At the time we
mhm.
closed, I believe it was 22.5% vacant. And so all
Mm.
we had to do was just, bring people into it. Our business plan was to develop a hybrid type model. We're going to reposition the asset, and we weren't going to be the first operators doing that in that area. The area had
Mm.
begun to expand during COVID. I believe that there's a railway that feeds about 2/3 of the nation that goes through there. And so we saw a lot of distribution and warehouse being built in that area. So a lot more families were coming into that area. And so all we needed to do, was stabilize. So what we planned to do was to, by the end of our third year, have 50% students and 50% traditional renters. And the other
Mm.
reason we did that was in case, I don't know, God forbid, but COVID 5.0 happened, we
Mhm.
wouldn't be, left with holding the bag. And so yeah, that was kind of what we did. I think we got our
So
first
let me ask you this: How did you
yeah.
raise the money? I mean, what did you have to do to pull that home? How many people were raising money and involved in these deals? I suppose you had separate teams in each one.
We had
Uh,
separate teams in each one.
mhm.
I wish I could give you the full number. I
uh,
think
okay,
yeah,
approximately.
I don't. So did we raised the entire amount on the Fort Worth asset, but we did not raise everything that we needed on Shippensburg. That was a harder
Hmm.
one to raise, regardless of the numbers. And so we sought gap funding for that. So that
Okay,
was,
okay.
seminar number 4 or 5 that we
Hmm.
experienced at that point. Yeah. So, but the deal's done well. It's outperforming what we even had projected to the investors. The only issue would be that we've had to pay about $2 million in the gap funding.
Finance, yeah,
Correct.
finance charges. Okay,
Yeah.
well, but it's outperforming, so that
It
helps.
is. It
Okay,
is. It
okay,
is.
all right. So So you're on your third deal now. Well, let's go back to the student housing because we don't really
Yeah.
talk about the student housing as much here. And you said something that's critical in student housing that anybody in the business that does those knows is you said it. You have a very short window to lease the place up, and if you
Yes.
miss that window, you're quasi screwed. And so,
So do you know
so
what
what's
happened to us,
what
Rod? Okay.
what?
So we closed. We're working with the property management company. What we didn't realize was that we believe the previous owner had a bit of an ownership stake in this property management company because all of a sudden we closed and we realized we're not fully in alignment anymore with this property management company. They're not doing things that we had hoped that they should have done. So we did what everybody should do. We fired them. And we had to get another property management company, except guess when that was happening? That was happening during that window where we
Oh
needed
boy.
to.
Oh boy.
So
Well, that's stressful.
I know it is. So the thing is the two assets that we closed on, there was absolutely nothing with the buildings themselves or the business plans. We had a lot of seminars from people problems. Yeah.
Those of you that are listening to this show for the first time, I call failures and learning experiences. I call them seminars. And so that's
Yeah.
what she's talking about. You just get the
Right.
lesson. It's only a failure if you don't get back up or you don't get the lesson when you get your nose bloodied. So,
Yeah.
so we're going to take a quick break from this incredible episode for a word from our sponsor, My Incredible Freaking Warrior Program. If you look in the mirror and think about how things are going for yourself, are you thriving or just surviving? If you haven't heard, I've got this amazing mentorship program. My students are called my warriors, and at last count, they own somewhere between 190 and 200,000 units that we know of. It's an extraordinary group of people that are just flat out crushing it in multifamily. And here's why that's a big deal. We could be facing the greatest transfer of wealth we see in our lifetimes with the current economic environment we're in. Incredible opportunity is already here. If you'd like to apply to our Amazing Warrior program, text the word CRUSH to 72345 and we'll set up a call. You can look us over, we'll look you over, and I can promise you, even if you don't join the program and it's not a fit, you're going to leave that call better than when you got on it. So again, text the word CRUSH to 72345 and you and I will speak soon. All right, let's get back to it. So the Fort Worth deal, what is that? Was that a value add project?
That was a classic value. Well, yes and no. That was a classic value add project. It was 123. It was an older Class C. I think it was a 1968 or 69 build. Initially, we were going in with the traditional, we'll renovate 20% of the units, et cetera, only to find out that the average tenancy there was 5 years. I believe when we were under contract, that one of the oldest tenants that had been there was taken to hospice. She had lived there for about 20 years, something along those lines. So instead, we thought about it and said, instead of kicking people out, why don't we just maintain the stabilization that's already there? And that's what we did. If a unit needed to be renovated, we would, but we didn't have to in order to achieve the rents that we have now. And in fact, because we have such an investor-centric property management company, during one of the calls, they said, hey, listen, this leasing office here is kind of large, has a bathroom, want to split it? And we said, why not? And that's what we're doing. So we're creating value through there. We have
Throwing an extra unit in.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that is a sound strategy. When you said 5 years, it's difficult to upset that apple cart. When you've got residents that have been there like that, they're loyal, they love the place. Yeah, you can do smaller rent bumps, but you don't have to empty the place out.
Correct. They only have one request: keep all the bills together. Don't make us split it. And that's what we do. You can raise the rent if you want, but they don't want to have to pay utilities separate from rents. And that's what we've done.
No kidding. Interesting.
Yeah.
So we jumped right into multiple deals here, what you're doing, challenges, all these sorts of things. Let's take a step back for the newbie investor that's listening to this and who hasn't done any of the things that we're talking about yet. What are some action items that you think you can deep dive into to where people should start when they're first getting into this and first just educating themselves about multifamily?
Good question.
Yeah, no, let me give a brief background to myself so that, no one thinks that, I was born into this world breathing and living real estate, because I wasn't.
Yeah, please.
I'm a first generation immigrant from Nigeria. I've been in this country for 20 years. I have 3 kids. I'm a single parent. I'm a pharmacist. And so I'm speaking to immigrants, I'm speaking to healthcare workers, and I'm speaking to parents, and I'm speaking to you, single parents.
Ify,
I,
hold on. I did not know you were a single parent. I
you
can't tell you
forgot.
my respect. Well, I forgot. Forgive me. My
Yeah, you
respect
do.
for you has just gone through the freaking roof. I did forget. Forgive me. I'm at 600 emails a day and 50
No,
phone
that's
calls,
okay.
and
Your
oh
your
yeah,
mom was a single mom. I remember that.
yes. I so we talked about it because I would have
Yes,
told you that. Oh,
yes.
I'm so impressed with you right now. I can't even begin to tell you. All right, please continue.
No,
Yeah.
of course. And so I didn't have, entrepreneurship running through my veins. In fact, I despised it. Until one day life happened, one day I'm married and then I'm not. And I find my back against the metaphorical wall. I had nowhere to go. Well, I could have gone down, but I decided to move forward. And so for those of you at home, what you can do, say you think you don't have any money, great. That's money is not the only currency. Time is. Time's a currency. Our relationships are a currency. Knowledge is a currency, and you can get that for free. And so the first thing to do is to start to invest in yourself. For me, I didn't realize until I became an entrepreneur the very thick, multiple layers of scarcity mindset that I apparently grew up with, whether it was from home, from Nigeria, wherever it was. I just had a lot of faulty thinking, and I spent the very first periods or months, of my journey as an entrepreneur on doing that. And so reading books, for those who say, oh, I don't have time, because I don't have the bandwidth or the time or the energy to sit down and read a book. But they're audiobooks. You can put them in your car. So investing in yourself, taking action in little ways, but you need to have goals. You need to have a why. Why are you doing this? Motivation is not enough. Discipline is what will, get you to rise to the top when motivation has kind of expired or given up. So those are some of the things you can do. Invest in yourself through learning, through online networking. I don't even say you don't like online networking or networking at all in person, because I'm an introvert. I don't gain any energy. I don't draw energy from the crowds at all. But that's okay. But it's necessary, because if anyone had told me early on that this was a relationship business, that would have saved me a whole lot of stress, stress and headache. I've had to, for me, networking is the metaphorical frog. I have to keep kissing in order to meet the right person or the right deal or the right relationship. So I don't know if that helps, but those are some of the things people can start doing.
You know, call me crazy, but
We
weren't you
might
a lot more soft? What?
we might call you crazy.
Oh, gotcha. I thought you said my mic was screwed up.
No.
Uh, okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't you a lot more soft spoken when we spoke before? I just had this recollection of a much softer
I
energy.
was I was less confident.
Fearful as well, kind of. It
I
was
was less
fearful and
confident.
softer. All right, because that's my
I
memory
was
of
less
you, and
confident.
so I was actually so surprised when we started talking, and your energy is like through the roof. So let me ask you this: how do you manage your time between 3 kids? What are
Yeah.
their ages, by the way? What's the age range?
I have an almost 15-year-old. I have a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old. I have 2 boys and a girl.
Wow,
The 7-year-old
wow.
probably thinks she's 17, but I have
Gotcha.
a
Yes. Oh boy,
elementary
she's
school,
spoiled.
middle
She's
school, and
spoiled
high school.
rotten. Okay. All
No,
right.
oh no, oh no,
No.
no, no. They have learned. They've learned a lot. I would say they're relatively disciplined. They have chores, etc. But no spoiling in my household.
Okay. So how do you manage the time and still give them the time and energy that they need as a single mom?
Is it easy? No. Do I win all the time? No. I give myself grace. That's the first thing.
Good. Oh, that's
But
huge.
yeah, it is. It is. You'll be very surprised. Like I said, time is a currency, right? I'll give you an example of what I did over the summer run. I wanted them to read books,
Mhm.
and when I only had 1 or 2 kids, I would read with them. But I was working on my business this past summer, so what I did was I and this is just an example to show people that there are different innovative ways that you can work things around. So I got my older one. I think I had him reading Rich Dad Poor Dad for teens. And
Oh,
then the
nice.
middle one, the 12-year-old, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. And then what we would do at the end of the day would be they would summarize the chapter they had read in a language that the 7-year-old could understand. So for me, it showed me that they were learning, they were reading, and then she was also gaining the benefit. So could I sit down with each person? That no, I couldn't. So I had to come up with ways to, to do this. My kids know when I pick them up from school, the younger two, if they see mommy's on a call or on a Zoom, lips are sealed. They're trained, they're trained to do this. And why do I do that? Because I don't have all the time in the world. So I've had to take investor calls when I'm picking them up. And no one knows that there's anyone in the car. So the other day, the other day, Rod, on Saturday, guess what I did? I took my boys to cut their hair. I used to cut their hair during COVID, but now I've gone back to the hair salon. So I took them to cut their hair. And while they were cutting their hair, because I knew that that was going to take time, I had my laptop, opened it up, and I was working on the investor relations reports, the monthly reports, because they have to be consistent. You have to keep, communicating with your investors. So that's what I was doing in the corner of a barber, in the corner of a barber shop. If you look for
Multitasking. I mean, that's multitasking. You have to do it. Okay. That's really valuable feedback. Valuable feedback.
And you have, by the way, you have so many potential excuses and reasons to have not taken action and have not done all these things and telling this. And I know another one here that we can talk about, that probably the one of the most common one, and especially coming up this week, is interest rates. Today's September 16th. This episode will be out after the Fed likely cuts rates on Wednesday. So for the people listening, Ify, that are thinking, oh, I want to wait on the sidelines until interest rates come down more, the market does this, the market does that, what would you say to those people that are just waiting for the Fed or the government or whatever to make a change before they take action?
No, that's a great question. They'll always, and I don't know if this year was just particularly strange because the conversations about the interest rate just seemed off the hook. But there'll always be a reason. Always. For the person that wants to find a reason, there'll always be a reason to stay on the sidelines. The interest rates were through the roof and we were still underwriting. We were still taking action because you have to, the only thing is you have to go through a few more haystacks to find that needle. So if you want to sit on the sidelines under any market, it's possible. If you only want to buy when the market, you're trying to time the market, it doesn't make any sense at all. So I say take action regardless. It's not to say buy anything at every point in time, but there's always something that can be done. Underwriting deals, educating yourself, educating your investors about what's happening, in the market. There's always something that needs to be done. I actually spoke to an investor today, and he was hesitant about investing again. He invested last year with me, and he was hesitant about investing again. And I feel like telling him, listen, if you don't do anything this year, that means you're waiting till next year. You're just pushing the plan forward. The business we're in is not a get rich quick, it's a grow wealth slow. And so, always waiting for the right time. When is the right time? Even if we get a deal now, it'll take months before it closes. So always take action. That's my thing.
So I mean, you've only been a warrior since February of last year.
23.
I mean, how's your warrior experience been in general?
Okay. So let me tell you why I joined the Warrior program. Before I joined the Warrior program, I had been, learning about commercial multifamily on my own. And that was 2022 when I first started. I had just joined another mentorship. There was no focus on commercial multifamily. And so when I became laser focused on commercial multifamily, my first instinct was, I am not buying into another mentorship. I'm still paying for this other one, not doing it. I can do this on my own. I can find all the information I want on my own. Not everybody needs a mentorship. Look at so-and-so. They didn't get into mentorships and they're making it. And so I think it was late summer, early fall, I started calling brokers and, they were calling me back. I was trying to underwrite. And it took a couple of months for me to realize Yeah, they are calling you back, but they're not giving you pocket listings. And the reality of mentorship, going back to that principle of their multiple currencies, money is a currency, education is a currency, or knowledge, time is a currency, and then uh, people. I don't know if I already said relationships, but that's a currency. And so it became very obvious to me that I may have some knowledge, not all knowledge, but I may have some knowledge. But one key piece that was missing was people. It was relationships. I could see the finish line. I knew exactly what to do. I understood the mechanics of how multifamily investing worked, but I just needed an army to help me cross that finish line. And so thankfully by that time I had met Rod. I'd gone through your virtual boot camp, and I went through a little bit of a mindset shift. When I was ready, there were a couple of things that I looked out for in terms of selecting a mentorship program. For me, the introvert, for me, it needed to be large. I wanted an army. So if it was a small mentorship, I was not doing it. So that was one thing. The second thing is I wanted an operator who hadn't just been operating for a long time, but he had been teaching for a long time, because I did not want to be the guinea pig. And so I went to your website, and I think it's a section called Warrior Wins or something along those lines. And then as I was scrolling through, two things happened. The first thing was I saw someone, maybe it was Jen Barner, I really can't remember who it was, but someone said, in 2017, and I went, boom, that's it. He's been running something since 2017. He didn't just start. And then another thing that happened was, as I was scrolling through, I began to see people that I knew, but I didn't know they had been in the Warrior program. Some people I had seen and met and touched in person, like John Sidoti. I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's why he has, and so and so, and this other person has hundreds of units. Okay, so proof of concept. So this thing works. And so I joined the Warrior program. At this point, I was looking for an army. I kind of had the, education under my belt. And then that thing with the KP happened, where the KP backed out. And then I really needed an army, and an army came through. One of the KPs that came on our deal has been on your show. And he said, and I can attest to the fact that he alone on our deal raised over $1.5 million. So through my connections, while I may not even have raised a ton through my retail investors, because I was just starting at that time, but through my connections, millions of dollars were raised on both deals that I participated in.
Connections in the Warrior program.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And
well,
then if
listen,
you're a warrior, go to the warrior only event. I almost missed it the first time. I was tired. I didn't want to go. And I'm so glad I did, because I'm sorry, I cut you off, Rod. I'm sorry. I'm so excited.
Please continue.
I'm so excited about this.
I'm the one that usually does it, so please continue.
I love watching you and Meryl. No, this is great. No, but the warrior program, I was exhausted. Very first one, I was very exhausted. I was very overwhelmed. On the last day, everyone else had left. There were just us stragglers behind. I decided to stay on a Sunday, and we're walking to a restaurant. During that stroll, I met the person that would later become a GP in one of our deals. And he brought in way over $500,000 into our deal just during that stroll. I didn't know that was what it was going to turn into. And that's what I'm talking about, having people in different markets across the nation, being able to say, okay, so if I need a team in this state, there's already an army in that state. And that is what drew me to the Warrior program. Sorry, very long-winded, but
oh no, that's very helpful, really helpful for people that have never heard about it. By the way, if you are interested in the Warrior program, take freaking action and text the word crush to 72345. That's how you apply. Okay. We don't take everybody, but I will tell you, if you set up that call, you'll leave that call better than when you got on it, because you'll be very clear on what it is you really want. But text crush to 72345 and we will be speaking soon if that's the case. Now I have something else I want to ask you, because it's not all, well, you know what? I'm not going to go there. I want to ask something else. In this journey of yours, talk about some aha moments. You mentioned a few, but if something else comes to mind, like an epiphany, like, holy cow, now I get it. Okay. I guess the fact that you needed an army was one, but if anything else comes to mind, let me know.
There is, and this is something that I preach very heavily. The team is more important than the deal. So the team, so before you start underwriting, I meet a lot of people, oh, I'm underwriting this amount. Yeah, that's great. Get the team first. The team is more important than the deal. A great team can take a fledgling deal and breathe life into it. And a terrible team can take a great deal and shred it apart. So that I
Hold
think
on, hold on, hold on, hold on. I want you to repeat that because it is so important. Okay, say it again.
okay. So the team is more important than the deal because a
Mm-hmm.
great team can take a fledgling deal and breathe life into it. And
Mm-hmm.
a terrible team can take a great deal and shred it apart.
And run it into the ground. Ask me
Run it
how I
into the
know.
ground.
How do you
Yes.
know, Rod? Please tell us how you know.
Because I'm dealing with 23 of those that somebody ran into the ground,
Oh
so that I'm
no.
taking over to fix. Yeah, it's okay. Life will go on, but boy, that just is so important, guys. This business is a team sport. Lots of different hats you can wear, and that's a good question for you. What hat are you wearing, or what hats are you wearing on these teams that you're in?
Let me tell you. So when
Okay.
I first came in, remember I came in at the time I came in, I was at that time one of the earliest members. So there were roles and responsibilities that had been assigned. One of mine was, going to be part of the, investor relations. I was going to raise money. That's great. And then I started asking, lead with value, right? I think I looked at the pitch deck that was already prepared because I just showed up, right? And I asked, hey, can I just, my mom's an English teacher. Can I just make a few, just a few grammatical errors here? I won't do anything to the content, just a little. Well, that was the day I learned how to use Canva because I took that thing and I changed everything. And so that was what I started doing, helping here and there. So at this point, I run investor relations on both. I'm part of the core asset management team and I perform a lot of the admin roles, the meetings, the schedulings, the Zooms, etc. So that's, the a lot of behind the scenes goes on with cash flow portal, making sure subscription documents have been um, properly filled out, sending things to Merrill's team so that they can file the blue sky filings, etc. So I do a lot of administrative tasks and I prepare the investor relation reports, the monthly investor reports, lead that team, and then I raise capital.
It's a lot. That's a lot.
It
Good
is.
for
It
you.
is.
And I know you, and I just know from what little I know about you that you absolutely kill it in all of those roles. So
Yeah,
very
I
impressive.
try.
Yep.
And I don't know if you remember this, but I think I had to meet with your team initially. There was this 30-day, goal setting, etc. There was no hard sell. I told them I didn't want to go into a mentorship. I didn't have the money. I'm like, "Oh, I'm all set. I think I know what I'm doing. I can figure this out on my own.
I
I
remember.
can it
Yeah.
was really
I remember.
I can see the promised land. So I didn't need one until I couldn't. Until I realized that I needed a team. I was talking to brokers, they were calling me back. It took me a couple of months to realize, girl, you haven't traded. They are not giving you a pocket listing. So I needed an army. I knew I needed an army. That's what I did. So my little analytical mind, what I did was instead of creating a table, because I needed to compare all the different programs, I opened up different programs as tabs on my computer. And there were certain characteristics and qualities. I don't think I ever told you this that I was looking out for. Number one, it had to be a large group. And number two, it had to be not just an operator that had been around for a while, but the person had to have been teaching for a while. I didn't want to be the guinea pig. And I wanted one-on-one coaching because the program I had gone in before, which was a phenomenal program, it wasn't focused on commercial multifamily. There was no coaching. So I went through all the, chasing shiny object, drinking from a fire hose. I didn't want to do that again. So by the time I realized, I think I do need I do need help. And then I reached out to you on Instagram. You must have asked me for my phone number or so. And I was like, it's probably his VA. So I gave it to you. And then you called me. I was at work. I can't remember a darn thing you said, but I kept on going, oh my gosh, is this you? I was like starstruck. I can't believe you called me. I can't believe you called me. And I remember one thing you said. You said, listen, if you know you're not going to be ready to do that, you don't have to get into this now. So you weren't even pushing me, oh, get into my program. There was none of that. And I had a great sense of urgency and I was like, I'm gonna show Rod I can do this. I'm gonna make him proud. And so it was my goal was to request for my sword and on all of this after I close my third deal. I'm in the middle of my third deal. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'm doing it early. But I wanted to do it after my third one as a way of saying
Those of you that are listening, what she's talking about is our warriors get a sword after their first deal, and so you wanted to have 3 just to really hammer it home. I love it. I love it. I love it so much.
The first one, people could say, beginner's luck. The second one,
Yeah.
maybe, but third one, okay, I think we know she knows what she's doing.
So if you, for people that love your story, which I don't know who wouldn't love your story, and they want to reach out to you, maybe connect, ask some questions, whatever, where and how can they reach you?
I am super active on LinkedIn. I'm there under my contracted name, Ify Asoh, PharmD, that's Doctor in Pharmacy. I also have an Instagram account, which is at Ify _ my last name, which is ASOH. So Ify _ Asoh.
Perfect. Thank
you so much.
Well, it's such a delight to see you, and I'm so grateful you spent some time. You absolutely added value. You're a ball of fire, and I know you're going to be doing a case study at the Orlando Boot Camp November 8th, 9th, and 10th. And guys, if you haven't signed up for that, what the heck is going on? Get your butt to that boot camp. There'll be 1,000 people there. It'll be extraordinary, and you'll be doing a case study. I'm likely going to have you on a panel or 2 as well, because I can just see how much value you're going to add. So it's such a treat. It's great to see you, and I look forward to giving you a hug in November.
Same here. Thank you. Thanks,
guys.
so much.
Mark.
Thank you.
All right, Mark. I'll see you later, buddy.